Welcome to the Money Mindset and Habits podcast. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something I think many of us grapple with, often silently. It's the hidden costs of constantly saying yes when people ask for financial help. Maybe we could call it financial people pleasing.
That's a good way to put it. And yeah, this isn't about, complicated investment stuff or market swings. We're looking at something much more personal. How our wish to be helpful, to be seen as generous, can sometimes, well, unintentionally mess with our own financial health.
Exactly. And to really get into this, we've got a really compelling story to explore. We'll be looking at excerpts about someone named Sarah, super kind, generous person,
hmm
but she consistently put others' money needs before her own, often, to her own detriment.
Yeah, Sarah's experiences give us a really clear window into this whole financial people-pleasing thing.
hmm
We can see the kinds of situations she faced, the choices she made, and crucially, what happened because of those choices.
Right. So this deep dive into her story should help us see those kind of unseen consequences of always being the financial yes man or yes woman. And it's also about understanding why setting financial boundaries, which is so important, but gosh, so hard sometimes, is absolutely essential.
Our goal here is really to unpack this idea, financial people-pleasing,
hmm
and maybe see if parts of Sarah's journey, well, if they ring true for you listening, it's about getting a bit more self-aware, I suppose, about our money interactions and what's driving them.
And hopefully provide some useful insights, things that can help you build a healthier financial mindset where, your generosity doesn't cancel out your own financial security. They can actually exist together. Okay, so let's dig in. What exactly is financial people pleasing beyond just, being a nice person?
That's the perfect place to start because it is more than just occasional kindness. Financial people-pleasing is more like a consistent pattern, spending, giving, driven by this fear of disappointing people, or maybe guilt, or needing people to see you as generous to feel okay. It's a less conscious, planned giving, and more of an automatic, almost emotional reaction when someone asks.
That distinction is really important, isn't it? It's not the planned birthday gift.
No.
It's that feeling of obligation that kind of creeps in, even when, deep down it might stretch you too thin financially. And that takes us right to Sarah's story. Can you maybe paint a picture of how this showed up in her life?
Sure. Sarah's story makes it really concrete. The excerpts show how she just kept saying yes to family, to friends, financial requests. One example was covering her cousin's rent for a bit. They were going through a rough patch.
Okay, which sounds like a really compassionate thing to do, especially with family. But what were the underlying issues there? Was it sustainable?
Exactly. And that emotional weight with family can be huge, But it didn't stop with the cousin. She also co-signed a business loan for a friend, starting a new venture.
Whoa, okay. That's a big step, financially speaking. Co-signing isn't just like lending 20 bucks.
No, absolutely not. It carries real, significant risk. You're putting your own credit, your own financial future on the line.
Right.
And maybe the most striking example, her parents had some unexpected medical bills, big ones. And Sarah decided to completely empty her emergency fund to help them out.
Wow. Just wiped it out. That level of sacrifice, it really shows her desire to help, but
Yeah.
yeah. It also shows how that desire could end up being really harmful to her own stability.
hmm
So what were the immediate results for Sarah after all these yeses?
Well, as the excerpts detail, the cumulative effect was pretty severe. Serious financial strain. Her credit cards
Yeah.
maxed out. And like you said, that emergency fund, her safety net, totally gone.
So in trying to be the financial rock for everyone else,
Yeah,
she kind of put herself on shaky ground.
very shaky ground.
That's exactly it. And what's really interesting in Sarah's case, according to the source, is that her resentment wasn't really aimed at the people she helped. It was more this frustration, this disappointment with herself for not being able to, draw the line, set those boundaries.
Oof. That internal battle sounds incredibly tough. Torn between wanting to be good, helpful,
And this rising tide of anxiety about your own finances.
and this really highlights a super important point. Generosity that leads to your own financial ruin. It's not sustainable. It's not really helpful in the long run. The source material calls it, quite powerfully, self-abandonment disguised as kindness.
Wow.
We get so caught up in meeting others' needs, we completely neglect our own basic financial security.
Self-abandonment disguised as kindness. That phrase really hits home. It suggests these actions might come from something deeper than just, wanting to lend a hand.
Absolutely. Often these patterns, they're rooted in how we see ourselves, what we think we owe the world, maybe, The excerpts touch on this idea that our relationship with money can get tangled up with wanting approval. It leads to what they call an invisible debt of approval.
Invisible debt of approval. That's a fascinating term. What does that actually mean? Like in practice?
It's this idea that maybe subconsciously we're using our money, our generosity, to try and buy things like acceptance
Mm.
or gratitude or just belonging. We say yes financially, not just from empathy, but also because deep down we need to be liked or valued or seen as a good person.
So it's like always picking up the tab for the group, even if it hurts your budget, because you're worried people might think you're cheap or not part of the fun.
Exactly that kind of thing. The money becomes a substitute almost for emotional needs that aren't being met directly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this is precisely where setting healthy financial boundaries becomes so critical. It's not about being selfish or mean or uncaring. It's actually a fundamental act of, well, self-respect, acknowledging your own limits, prioritizing your own stability.
So how did Sarah start to change things? The excerpts say she learned to say no. How did she actually start doing that? What did it sound like?
Yeah, the examples from her journey are really practical. Things like just saying directly, no, I can't help with that right now. It's clear, it's direct, and it doesn't get into long excuses that just invite people to argue or try and guilt you.
Keep it simple. Focused on her current ability. That sounds key.
Totally. Well, another phrase she used was, I need to prioritize my own savings this month.
Yeah.
Again, it clearly states her own financial needs without blaming the person asking. It's about her priorities.
Right, and that's fair.
And there's a more empathetic way, too. I'm not in a position to contribute, but I care. That acknowledgement of their situation shows you're not dismissing them, but still holds the line firmly.
Those are really useful scripts, actually. Shows that saying no doesn't have to feel like slamming a door in someone's face. You can still show empathy. So what happened when Sarah started using these? What was the reaction?
Well, the excerpts point to a really encouraging outcome, actually. The people in her life who genuinely cared about her, not just her wallet. They understood. They respected her boundaries, which kind of reinforces that strong relationships aren't just built on financial transactions, you know.
That must have felt pretty good. Validating. Helping her see who is really there for her.
Huge validation, I'd imagine. And for the few who didn't react well, who maybe pushed back or got upset, well, that gave Sarah some pretty valuable information, too, about the true nature of those relationships, maybe where her energy or resources weren't being valued properly.
So, in a way, saying no wasn't just about protecting her bank account. It was also about strengthening her self-worth and getting clarity on her relationship.
Precisely. And this loops back to that core idea. Saying no in these situations, it isn't negative. As the excerpts put it, every no Sarah started saying was really a yes to something vital for herself, her peace of mind, her financial stability, her, overall well-being.
It's about regaining control, isn't it? Taking back your financial resources and deciding how you want to use them to support your own goals, your own security. Now, if these ideas are clicking for you and you want more practical ways to, take charge of your money and build that healthy mindset, this is probably a good moment to remind you to subscribe to the Finance Tips YouTube channel. Lots of great content there.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. And as we start to wrap up this deep dive, it's really important for you listening to maybe reflect on that central question from the source material. Where in your own life might you be saying yes, but it's coming from guilt or obligation, rather than, genuine alignment with your values and what you can actually afford right now?
Yeah. Where might your kindness, your generosity, which are great things, be unintentionally costing you too much? In terms of your own financial health, your future security, it's a tough question for sure, but
Right.
really valuable to sit with.
hmm The main takeaway here really is that generosity is wonderful. It's important, but it should never have to come at the expense of your own financial well-being. You just can't pour from an empty cup, right? You can't effectively support others if your own foundation is crumbling. Letting yourself get drained financially doesn't actually help anyone in the long run, not even the people you're trying to help.
The excerpts say it pretty directly. You are not an ATM.
Right.
You're a whole person with your own dreams, your own needs, and real, actual financial limits. Recognizing those limits, respecting them, that isn't selfish. It's just necessary, essential for being okay.
And remember, saying no to others when you need to protect your own stability, that's not a selfish move. It's responsible. It's wise, ultimately. And it benefits everyone down the line because you'll be stronger, more able to offer help when you genuinely can.
So, If this deep dive, if this whole idea of financial people pleasing, if it resonated with you, maybe you saw a bit of Sarah's story in your own experiences, consider sharing this, maybe with a friend or family member, someone who might also find this perspective helpful. It's a tricky conversation, but often a really important one to have.
Definitely. And like we've been saying, achieving that financial freedom, that well-being, it's not just about how much money comes in. It's fundamentally about the choices you make, how you manage it, how you protect it. And sometimes that means choosing not to give it away just because you feel you should.
Well said. And don't forget again, subscribe to the Finance Tips YouTube channel. More great tips, more strategies to help you enhance your financial life, build that strong money mindset.
Thank you for joining us for this exploration of financial people pleasing. We really hope it's given you some valuable things to think about.
Thank you for listening to the Money Mindset and Habits podcast.